God is subtle. Welcome to my audiovisual blog. What is the meaning of subtle? Subtle means to be delicate, elusive, and difficult to understand or difficult to experience. When I say God is subtle, what do I really mean? I mean that God is the finest particle which is difficult to experience. The other examples to understand the word subtle is earth is not subtle, therefore we can easily experience it by touching or smelling it. Sky, on the other hand, is highly subtle particle. We really cannot experience it easily. We can't touch the sky. In order for us to understand all of this, we need to understand the 5 elements, 5 senses, and the relationship between 5 elements and the 5 senses. Let's first know what are the 5 elements. The 5 elements are earth. In Sanskrit it is called Prithvi. Water, which is called Jal. Fire. In Sanskrit it is called Agni. Air, which is called Vayu. And sky, which is called Akash in Sanskrit. These are the 5 elements. If I have to repeat them, they are earth, water, fire, air, and sky. And in Sanskrit they are called Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, and Akash. In Hinduism, it is believed that sky was the first element which was created. The rest of the elements like earth, water, fire, and air were created later on. Having understood what the 5 elements are, let's now try and understand the 5 senses. What are the 5 senses? The 5 senses of human body are nose, through which we can smell, tongue, through which we can taste, eyes, through which we can see, skin, through which we can touch, and ears, through which we can hear or listen to sounds. If you observe very carefully, each of these sensory organs or sense organs are attached to a unique sensory experience through which we can feel the world, feel the existence of this world. These are the same 5 senses which have been gifted to us to experience those 5 elements that we have discussed so far. In Hinduism, each of the 5 elements is related to the 5 senses. Let's try and understand the relationship. Earth is related to smell. Water is related to taste. Fire is related to sight or vision. Air is related to touch. And sky is related to hear. If you observe carefully, the grossest of all elements is earth. Earth does not have the ability to permeate, which means earth does not have the ability to spread wide, around, upward, downward, and everywhere. How about water? Water has greater ability to permeate. You pour water on the table and it spreads. It is more pervasive. Now, fire. Fire has higher ability to permeate than water. It has higher permeability. Fire can not only penetrate into the water, but can spread upward, which is why the flames shoot up into the air. And now, air. Air interpenetrates fire. It can blow off the fire. It can spread all across and up to great heights and down to great depths. Air is subtler. It is also subtle that you cannot see it. You have understood 4 elements. Now the 5th element, space or sky. Space is the most beautiful and majestic elements. In Hinduism, it is believed that space was the first element to have formed. The rest of the elements like air, fire, water, and earth came later on. Space is the most subtle of all elements. It is therefore difficult to experience. However debatable it is, only sound can be related to sky, because sound as a sensory experience is also subtle in nature. We cannot touch space. We can only hear it, if we may say so. You must have understood that the most subtle element, space or sky, can be experienced by the most subtle sensory experience, which is sound. I hope you agree with me that sky or space is the most subtle element, and it can rarely be experienced by our sensory nerves, except with ear, and that too so vaguely. But wait, let us now talk about God, because I say that God must be more subtle than the subtlest of elements. What do I mean? I mean God is the most subtlest element. How? Well, because if God was not the most subtle, we would have experienced by our sense organs the way we experience the five elements. God is beyond the fifth element on all these five elements, and therefore can be said as the most subtlest. For the sake of discussion, let's say that God is the sixth element and the most subtlest of all elements. If there are six elements, then we must have six senses to experience them. But we know that we have five sense organs. Well, my friends, according to the spiritual Hinduism, every one of us have the so-called sixth element, which is called Atma. Through Atma we can experience the sixth element and the most subtlest element, the God. Atma, or the self, is equally subtle. Not everyone can easily trigger it. We can trigger our touch, smell, vision, sound, or tasting senses very easily. But triggering Atma requires a great deal of devotion. And that, my friend, is the path to experience God. We have come to the end of this video blog. I hope you agree with me that God is subtle.